guys, Pastor Jeff here. Just wanted to give you a quick update. If this were a normal year, we would be doing a ministry vision and budget update around this time of year, where we would kind of take a look at where we think the ministry is headed over the coming year, and then what do we think is the budget that's necessary to support that. You know, as a church, our budget year ends June 30th and it begins July 1st. So around this time of year, each year, we start thinking about some of those kind of things. And normally we would have a big family meeting where we would call everybody together, and I'd get up on the platform, share for a little bit, maybe invite some ministry leaders up to share for a little bit, and kind of talk about where we see things going over the next 12 months. And then we would wait for about 2 weeks, give you a chance to think about some of that, give you a chance to look at some of the rough budget outline that we put out for you. And then we would ask, typically for the past several years, we've done it at a Sunday morning service, for everybody who's a member of the church to go ahead and stand. And if they would like to affirm the budget that's been put forward by the elders and the ministry leaders, they would just say aye. And so we've done that for the past couple of years. But as you know, in light of this whole COVID thing, that's just not going to be possible. So the elders kind of kicked it around a little bit and tried to figure out what was going to be the best way to do it. And we have developed this ministry plan and a budget to support it. And what we want to do is just send you this video along with some documentation for you to take a look at, and an outline of the budget. And then we'll ask for you to vote online. So there'll be a link there for you to go ahead and just click on. You can go right to it. It should just have a quick form for you to fill in your first name, your last name, your email address, so we can verify who you are and that you're a member. And then it's going to ask you, do you affirm the budget that's being put forward? Yes or no? And then just 3 other quick questions for us to help kind of be connected a little bit more for you and see if there's anything that we can do for you. Now, if you have any technical questions about the budget, if you want to know anything about the dollars and the decimals, then Woody, who has been our church treasurer for years, is available to you. You can reach him at treasurer@thecitygatechurch.org. Treasurer@thecitygatechurch.org. He's the one that's going to be able to answer all kinds of technical questions for you. Anything about the budget and where are we spending and how are we spending and are you sure we have enough money for that, and all of those kind of things. But if you have any questions about the vision and the direction of the ministry, then reach out to any of the elders. So we have 3 staff pastors. That would be myself, Pastor Matt, Pastor Stephen, and then we have Pastor Vic, of course, and Jim Greening and Jesse Wallace. Those are the 6 men that serve as elders for the church. If you have a question about the vision or the direction that we're setting out, please feel free to contact any of those men. Now, I want to draw your attention real quick to a couple of the things that you see there in this documentation that we're going to be sending you. As many of you know, we live in tremendously uncertain times, and yet the church still just has one mission: to love God and love others. And so we have put together what we believe is a good plan to help us do that. And if you notice in the material that we're sending along, we break that out under 4 different categories: worship, discipleship, relationship, and stewardship. And I just wanted to take a few minutes quickly to walk you through some of those highlights that you see in the documentation that we're sending to you and kind of round them out just verbally a little bit more. The first one is worship. What are we going to be doing in the realm of worship in the coming year? And the main thing there, of course, is that we're going to begin 2 services. Now, prior to COVID, we were bumping at 75% of our rated capacity on a regular basis. And so we were already kicking around the idea of maybe going to 2 different services. COVID seems to be forcing our hand on that. So we're looking to go to 2 services here soon for the sake of COVID mitigation, but then also for the sake of just responding to the glorious growth that God has been allowing us to experience. Well, worship isn't the only thing that we do. Jesus gave us the great commandment to love God and love others, but he also gave us the great commission to go into all the world and make disciples of people. And so we do that here at the City Gates through, for example, our Bible studies. So if you remember back at the beginning of the year, we started doing these Bible studies together so that the men and the women and really like everybody in the church was doing the same studies at the same time. We're going to go ahead and continue doing that. You can expect to see more of that in the future, as well as a continued emphasis on home groups once we're able to begin gathering in homes comfortably and safely again. So expect to see continued Bible studies, expect to see continued home groups, and then expect that we will continue to do the weekly podcasts that support all of that. We've also been looking forward to standing up some core classes. So one of the questions that comes up is, well, if we go to 2 services, what about ABFs? And ABFs are Adult Bible Fellowships, if you didn't know. Those are classes that meet at typically 9 o'clock here on Sunday morning, kind of like a small group, but here on campus. And they meet to go through a different book of the Bible or maybe study a topic or something. We want to look at having more of those as we roll into having 2 services. So we would look at having ABFs available at 9 o'clock and at 11 o'clock. And through setting up some core classes, we hope to bring almost a Bible college style environment here to the local church. So that if you were here for a couple of years and you went through these various different courses, you could come out on the other side feeling confident that you had been exposed to a lot of the key fundamentals of the Christian faith as well as the Christian life. So expect to see us standing up some core classes in the coming year. We also want to continue to build things out on the website so that we can put together an online resource hub for study, for counsel, for growth, so that if you have a question, you say, I'd really like to know some things about marriage. Well, who can we go to in the church, some of our pastors and other ministry leaders, and say, what are the best resources on Christian marriage, and then pull together a list of those things and have that available for you online so that you can go to the website, and if you have that kind of a question, you've at least got a really good starting point to know where to go looking for some answers. So hopefully in the coming year, we'll be building out more of that online hub of resources. Then the next thing is relationship. Now, one of the things that we have struggled with for a long time is everybody has a desire to connect, and that's fantastic. But how do we best do that? Especially, how do we do that in a city where some people kind of keep their guard up a little bit? You ask them, so, hey, what do you do for work? And they say, I work for the government. Well, in light of that kind of a reality, how do we facilitate people getting to know one another? Well, one idea that we'd like to pursue in the coming year is to create an opt-in directory for internal distribution. And so we hope to, over the coming months, go to people and ask, if we had an in-person, in-house directory, what kind of information would you like in it? So you can be as specific or as vague as you would like. But we also want to add some things like hobbies. So maybe you would say, this is who I am and this is my email address. And for hobbies, I really like mountain biking. And then we publish that and you flip through it. And lo and behold, there are like 2 or 3 other people that put in there for hobbies, mountain biking. Well, you've got their name, you've got their email address, and now you can reach out and maybe find somebody that would like to get together and do some mountain biking on Saturday. So it's a way to facilitate even more fellowship and help people get connected. So we're looking forward to producing that opt-in internal distribution directory in the coming months. Hopefully that'll be done by Christmas. We would also like to coordinate the welcome process for new attenders. When people show up at church for the very first time, it can be an intimidating process, and they've put up with a lot of trying to get here for the very first time. So what do we need to do to make sure that when somebody shows up, they have every opportunity to be met, to have their questions answered, and to get plugged in? So we have been trying that. We do, milk and cookies and different things along those lines, but I think there's some room for improvement there. And so we're looking to improve that process. We also want to emphasize fellowship events in the coming year. Now, we would have been wanting to do that pre-COVID, but it seems like COVID has just exacerbated it, that there's a lot of people that just want to be connected to other people. And so we are looking at how can we put together even more fellowship events to draw people in and help them connect to each other. And then how can we improve the membership process? So that people can feel that they're connected, that this is their church. The analogy we use every now and then is when you become a member, you stop dating the church and you kind of get married to the church. You make a commitment to the church and the church makes a commitment to you. When the whole COVID thing started, one of the first things that we did was we turned to our membership directory and said, okay, these are the people that have said that this church is their church. And so we can start here from a sense of pastoral care and ask, how are all these people doing? And so you remember, we intentionally reached out to everybody and saw, hey, how is everybody doing? And does anybody need anything? Well, we would like to improve that membership process and make it a little bit more robust as we go into the new year and invite some more people in, maybe emphasize it just a little bit more. We also want to continue to develop relationships and partnerships with those who are seeking to advance the gospel. And so we are going to be partnering for the next 3 years with Arpi and Andi Hovath Kovai, who are pastoring. Arpi is the pastor now of a church in Budapest, which is the capital of Hungary. It was a church that was being led by a missionary. That missionary is now leaving and handing the church over to Arpi, who is Serbian/Hungarian. So we're making a commitment to them that for the next 3 years, as they seek to take in this small fellowship and get firmly connected to it and grow it, that we will come alongside and be their partners in the gospel. And Andi has such a reputation for her abilities to translate the scriptures and to translate other resources that many of you know of the Bible Project. Well, the Bible Project has reached out to Andi, that's the wife, and asked if she would be willing to help translate all of their videos into Hungarian. But it being a nonprofit ministry, they can't afford to pay an awful lot. So when we do something like come alongside and say, hey, we'd like to support you in the ministry that you're doing as you plant the church and get it kind of up and running, it also frees them up to be able to take on additional ministry work, like freeing up Andi to be able to provide translation for the Bible Project and all of their videos into Hungarian. We were going to have them come and share with us in July of this year, but COVID has prevented all that. So if you don't remember Arpi from when he came a couple of years ago and taught on a Sunday morning, we're looking to have them and their whole family come out maybe around Christmas time or perhaps next summer, and you'll be able to meet Arpi and Andi. He is serving as the senior pastor at, I believe they're calling it G11, which is a Calvary Chapel church plant that's growing there in Budapest in Hungary. So then that brings us now down to stewardship, which is the fourth area where we're thinking about ministry, worship, discipleship, relationship, stewardship. And the big one here is that we're looking to add a full-time executive administrator to oversee the 4 C's of the church. So that would be to coordinate all of our ministries, as we have all these different things going on, to help us coordinate and make sure that all the horses are pulling in the right direction and that we're not siloing different ministries, but that we are all working together for a common goal of advancing one church, one ministry. So this executive administrator will help us coordinate all of that, and then will help us communicate all of that to make sure that the people who need to know things know them, and they know them at the right time, and that knowledge is presented to them in the right way. This individual will also be responsible for helping coordinate the church's calendar. So this individual will understand what the church's mission and vision are, and then help us to come up with ideas to say, okay, well, if we're saying that this is important, then how are we going to go about doing that? And helping us to plan different events. For example, fellowship. If we're saying we want to emphasize more fellowship over the coming year, we're going to turn to the executive administrator and say, now, would you please help us to find some events that we can put on the calendar, then communicate them out and coordinate it with everybody so that we as a whole church are emphasizing fellowship. And then, oh, by the way, the 4th C, you've got coordinate, communicate, calendar. The 4th is cash. So we're going to ask the executive administrator to kind of keep an eye on the budget and help make sure that we're spending money the right ways, as being the best possible stewards over the resources that God has entrusted to us so that we accomplish that common mission and vision. We have some big projects that need to happen around here this year. One you'll be seeing outside, we've got this stormwater retention basin, and for the past 25, 30 plus years, water comes into our property and then it collects for a little while and then it leaves our property. But that big, some people call it the pond down there, has accumulated several decades worth of silt. And we've been perplexed by how to maybe dredge that so that it functions the right way. The county has come and engaged with us. They're not certain that it's working properly as it was designed to, and we've had to engage with an engineering firm that validated the fact that, we need to make some serious improvements to it so that it will work well. So you should expect to see some pretty major construction out there within the next year or two as we redesign the front corner a little bit more so that it functions properly. But as we do that, we're simultaneously going to re-green some of the areas around it. And instead of having kind of a little pond that we have right now that sometimes has a little bit of water and sometimes doesn't, we're hoping to redesign it in such a way that it will have at least 3 feet of standing water at all times. And so the ducks will come and they'll hang out there, and we're able to put some chairs and benches around it and stuff and create, a real park-like kind of setting out there. So hopefully that will begin unfolding over the next year or so. There's been a lot of background work with the lawyers and the engineers and the county and everybody that gets involved in a project like this. But we're making good progress. We want to continue making progress. And so we'll look to somebody like the executive administrator to help guide us through all of that, as well as begin looking into, if we were to build out a little bit more here on the property, what would go into that? Well, that's something that we want the executive administrator to go ahead and take on as well. For that executive administrator, we're looking for somebody who has the professional skills, but also a pastoral heart, because we want to start off with a executive administrator, but if it's the right individual with the right skills, then we could transition that possibly to an executive pastor if we've had the chance to look at their gifts, their calling, their skills, their abilities, and see kind of what direction does that go. So that's going to be happening outside, but then inside, you should continue to see some renovations happening as well. We're going to be working in the sanctuary to kind of soften up the appearance in there. We're going to be putting up some drywall to cover up the industrial brick that's in there. We're going to be adding some wood in different places, and we're already working to cover the ceiling where some of the drywall tape is starting to burst. And so we're going to be redoing the ceiling and some of the lighting up there as well. So a lot of really exciting improvements going on. But then, of course, more improvements outside. Praise God that a year ago we got everything done with the patio, and now we're able to use all of that. But we are hoping to add a little bit more external furniture so that we can have more space for some of those fellowship events. So that's just a rough outline of where it is that we're headed. We don't know exactly what the next 12 months are going to look like. And so we've tried to take a conservative approach to the budget. We've pulled back in some areas, like we're not looking at spending so much money on either having conferences in-house or going to conferences out of this area. We're also not expecting to be traveling as much internationally, although we'd love to do another short-term missions trip somewhere. This just doesn't seem like the year to be doing that. So we've tried to be wise and conservative and cut back in some areas, but then also to be bold and to follow the Lord's leading by doing things like adding an executive administrator, which we believe is part of the process that will lead us to the next steps that the Lord has for us. We would ask that you would review all of this. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this video. Please go ahead and take a look at the document that we have sent you. Take a look at the rough outline of the budget. If you have more questions, you want to drill down a little deeper on that, we ask you to please go ahead and address those detail-related questions to Woody, treasurer at theCityGatesChurch.org. If you have questions about vision and direction, ask any of the pastors or elders. Take all that into consideration, pray about it, and then we ask that you would speak. So that you would click on the link and that you would go to the website, you'd fill in that quick little bit of information, and you would tell us, do you agree? Do you not agree about the vision and the budget that we have laid forward? We thank you so much for, again, your time, for your giving, for your involvement, for your participation. We are the church, and we are all resting on the solid foundation that is Christ, pushing out, reaching up, looking to be salt and light in this lost and dying world that needs Jesus.